my name is Sarah, and I'm with Barista Magazine, and I'm just thrilled to do this panel in particular because I've been at different iterations of this How Did I Get Here panel at different coffee events around the world, and it's always really, really inspiring because you guys are baristas now, but who knows if you're going to be doing that for your entire life. What you are right now is in love with coffee, and you've found a way that you're expressing yourself, you're making a career out of it. But you might be interested in someday moving on to roasting, or opening your own shop, or working with green coffee, doing something like what Brian was discussing with brand identities. So interesting. There are so many different creative outlets that we can explore in coffee. So this panel brings together people who have tons of experience in the industry, who have made that jump from being a barista to a different facet of the industry where they've succeeded. So I'd like the panelists to introduce themselves and tell us where they started and where they are now. And then we're going to sort of address the question of what challenges do you face when you're trying to make that next leap. But this should be a very interactive and free-form kind of a panel. You guys should feel free to jump in with questions whenever you want. Okay, so let's start with Martin.
Okay, I have a mic and I will start. My name is Martin and I'm from Latvia, and first of all I would like to say thank you for all guys. They are sitting, my colleagues from King Coffee Service and from Rocket Bean Roastery. Woo! King Coffee Service is making all technical things, and they are responsible for Marzocco coffee machines, they are responsible for a bun, and they are responsible for clear water, that means VVT filters. And Rocket Bean Roastery, tomorrow you will try our coffees, and we are roasting coffee. And actually, yes, this is, I own both those companies. I'm co-owner of King Coffee Service and Rocket Bean Roastery, and not only in Latvia, but in Estonia and in Lithuania as well. That's why we are one Baltic organization. And yeah, we started 10 years ago. And when I started, actually, I didn't drink coffee at all. And it was really interesting that we were traveling around Europe and saw that there is a totally different situation with a coffee, for example, in London, when where people are going and riding the metros and drinking takeaway coffees. And when we came back to Latvia, we made a small research and find out that in Latvia only 5% of people who are drinking coffee tried coffee outside at home. It was 12 years ago. And I and my colleagues are coming from big international companies like Philip Morris and some breweries in the Baltic states. And we had a chance to see all those figures, what is connected with coffee, and that's why I find out it's good business opportunity. And at the very beginning, it was like really like just figures and business. And after some, I would say some 3-4 months, we understood that coffee is something different. It's not only a business; it's a way of living and way of communicating of people. And right now, yes, we are here, and we have several companies, and we have a roastery, we have a coffee shop, and yeah, that we are doing.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks.
I'm Matt Scott. I started in coffee back in 1998 at a little bagel shop and worked there for 4 years while I was going to university and touring in a band, and my whole life was going to be music. I was going to make it. I was going to be like that star. And that didn't go well for a number of reasons, mostly that there's a ton of competition and I kind of got bored with it. So I stopped touring, and I had quit my bagel job to go on the last tour that I went on, and I was looking for a new place to work. Found a little bread shop that wanted to increase their coffee program, went in and just kind of changed their whole coffee program and helped them actually have some positive profit months for the first time in the 8 years that they've been open. And it was pretty easy. It was pretty minor changes. It was just looking at the service and looking at quality and trying to actually get people who are coming in for bread or for muffins to leave with a cup of coffee. And that was the point at which I just became fascinated with this idea of how do you convince someone they want to come into your shop and make them want to stay, make them want to come back and be repeat customers. And about 6 months after I started working at this place, I was just really getting into a groove and felt like I was learning a ton about coffee and had some good fellow staff members on board with the coffee program. They closed. But they offered me the space. So I immediately turned that down, went out and tried to get another coffee job, couldn't get another coffee job. No one would hire me because I had quote unquote like shift manager experience, and they didn't want to hire someone who had previous like a manager title. So I finally just went, you know what, why not? Let's just do it. So January of 2003, 2 months after deciding this, I opened a cafe in a little corner space in a developing area of our downtown. It was right when the microbrewery kind of thing was taking off in the US like crazy, and ended up being perfect timing. So we expanded 2 years later, double the size of our space. We seat about 80 people. We're doing, in a small town, it's a little college town, there's about 50,000 people. There's only one other main coffee shop. There's a roaster that doesn't really do retail as well, and then there's one Starbucks. And we're doing on par with what a busy Starbucks in a big city does every day in sales. That took about 5 years to get there, and we're now 13 years in, and I have a staff of 13, I have 2 full-time bakers, we have a full bakery now. It's been a pretty exciting journey to see how a small town could like embrace local coffee over like a lot of the chains coming in. And the other local coffee shop that's 1 block away from us is just as busy as we are, and we've both grown consistently the whole time we've been open. Being part of this little community where there's really only a couple of shops with a handful of baristas made me decide that I wanted to see if there's a way to get involved in like a greater specialty coffee scene. So in 2011, which is way into my coffee career, I went to my first SCAA show in Houston, Texas. Didn't know anyone, went by myself. Had a bad week in taxes, so I had 0 money when I landed and had to, basically I paid for my hotel, had like $100 for like food and beverage. It was an awful hotel. It was just like a miserable experience on that end, but I was like, I'm here, it sucks that it's a bad financial week, but I'm gonna figure this out and I'm gonna just figure out what this whole thing is about. So I volunteered a bunch of stuff, met a lot of people, and walked away from that weekend realizing that there's this whole group of peers out there in specialty coffee, and that was really exciting. But it also meant that there's people I could learn from. I felt like I had kind of learned everything I could learn on my own. So there's people to learn from. There's people to share what I've learned. There's people who care about the same things and are passionate about the same things with coffee and with service as I was. The other thing I decided to do that week was join the Barista Guild. Decided to compete the next season, and I decided that within 2 years I was going to be on the executive council for the Barista Guild, and get my level 1 and level 2 certificate at the next camp, which was our second camp ever. That's kind of a lot of things. So I jumped in, kind of full on, and did a lot of the rookie mistakes that people do when they think you can do everything. So I went overtime in competition. I got into nationals because I was 7th in my region, the top 6 go, and someone backed out. So I got into nationals, I was totally not prepared, and I went overtime by a minute and a half, got DQ'd. So that was fun. I learned a lot from that. But people were still really supportive, and I still got to hang out with all these great competitors who have been doing it for years. Ended up doing my level 1 and my level 2, starting to station instruct, you'll hear ASTs, is that what it's called? Yeah, AST, yeah, it's just like the ASTs here. The more I got involved, the more I realized that there was kind of a gap in people who were on the committee for events for the Barista Guild. Everyone wanted to do education, or they wanted to do membership, but no one really wanted to be involved in events. So I stepped in at a time when there was no one else on the events committee besides the person who was the chair of that committee, who decided to leave their position on the Barista Guild early. So this thing holding got dropped in my lap called Barista Camp, and I was just like, you know what? This is my chance to get involved. So from there, I started taking over events on Barista Camp. 2 years later, became an executive council member officially, got my specialized lead instructor certificate as well recently so that I can teach classes and give exams throughout any of the SCA curriculum. And through all of that, I've realized that I love teaching and I love helping baristas get from point A to point B. And that I have a really great story of taking being a barista to making it into a career. And not everyone wants to own a cafe. There's a lot of coffee jobs out there though. There's a lot of opportunity if you go out and get involved at events and however you can, where you meet people who lead to one thing, who lead to the other thing. When I first started this kind of Barista Guild path, I had no interest in being a part of events. But I realized that my whole background is in concerts, concert management, and venue management. It made sense for me to work on something like events. But I didn't know that till I met the right people who pointed me in the right direction. And I didn't know if I really wanted to own a cafe for life. I almost sold it a couple years ago. But meeting other passionate cafe owners in this industry has made me realize that, like, no, I do want to do this. In fact, I want to do another one. Not quite yet, but in like a year. So there's a lot you learn along the way. You have to take those steps to kind of realize who you are in coffee or who you are in not coffee. If coffee's a stepping stone for you.
Thanks, Matt.
Hey everybody, my name is Charlotte, and I started in coffee, I think it was 2006 when I was in university, kind of same deal. I just needed a part-time job outside of my studies to earn a little extra money, and here I am 10 years later, still in the coffee industry. I think what kept me in coffee for a long time was having fun in my various jobs. In New York, I worked in a few different kind of random coffee shops. Some of them weren't specialty, some of them were, but just the experience of, interacting with people on a regular basis and making them have a good time made me have fun and actually made me want to learn more about coffee and, spend more time kind of developing my skills on that side of things. About 3 years ago, I moved to Berlin and I started working at a coffee shop there called The Barn Roastery. There I learned a lot about coffee, that's where my brain basically exploded on coffee. I spent a year there and now I've actually made the jump into green coffee. So I work for a specialty coffee company called Cafe Imports. We're based in the US, but we have an office in Berlin and another office in Australia. We taste a lot of good coffees. We hopefully have sold coffee to all the people that are in this room and have drank some of our coffees, and hope to bring you more.
Great.
Hi, I'm Sam. I still work as a barista. I've been working in coffee for probably nearly 7 years. I used to work in science. I have a chemistry degree, but I quickly realised that sitting in a lab and not talking to people was not really my thing. So I got a cafe job just because it came up and quickly realised that I really like to make people drinks, talk to people. So I'm here because I'm a volunteer coordinator. I'm also part of the Barista Guild working group. So the first year of camp I volunteered just to see what it was like. I didn't know if I wanted to do any educational tracks, so I thought I would come and see how it was. It was awesome. I met loads of really amazing people, made heaps of really good friends that I'm still friends with now. I had so much fun that I approached the BTE and said I want to be more involved. What can I do? So then the year after I was volunteer coordinator, I was a lot more involved in the run-up to camp. And then last year at camp, after the 10th person asked me, have you applied to be part of the working group yet? And I said no. I gave in and applied, and then was probably very shocked that I got voted in. So now I'm here as part of the working group, and again as volunteer coordinator, and it's really awesome. And for me it's a good way, I work in a really small shop, So there's not necessarily a huge amount of opportunity for like, progression, but this is a great way for me to still meet heaps of people in coffee, learn new stuff, see maybe jobs that you want to do in the future. I didn't really want to work on the bar forever, but right now I didn't really know what I want to do, so this is a fun way to come up with ideas. And I'm happy to be here, thanks.
I find that this just so inspiring hearing from these different people who, whether they planned the path that they ended up taking or if it was something that just fell in their lap, like Matt saying, you know, suddenly this space was available, it was do or die, I do it right now. I would wonder if you guys could talk about things that maybe intimidated you in the beginning of your quest to further your career. So, like Sam, I remember when we were talking, you said, you know, I picked up the phone because I had so much fun volunteering that I wanted to know what else there was for me to do. That's a step you had to take. No one's going to come and say, I have this thing for you. You have to make it happen yourself. So, getting into green coffee, that can be a big leap. Can you guys speak to maybe something that was intimidating to you in the beginning and what you learned from the experience of getting past that?
Well, I do remember very strongly the first time I ever did a cupping. Once I had been hired by Cafe Import, so I was in the sensory lab in our headquarters in the US. Someone handed me a cupping sheet and they were like, all right, let's cup, you know? And I had cupped plenty before that, or what I felt like was plenty in the cafe setting, you know, kind of like helping out with the weekend cuppings, you know, where then you're maybe just inviting people in and saying, hey, do you taste the difference between this Brazilian coffee and this Kenyan coffee and this Colombian coffee? And you know, you kind of never really have to share your real scores with people. You're kind of just saying, do I like it, do I not like it? And of course, you know, there are people in this room who spend more time cupping, who maybe you're a roaster and you're doing a bit more evaluating of roast profiles and stuff like that. For me, it was really intimidating being in this room with all these people who really know how to cup, or what I felt like, you know, they really know how to cup, they really know the whole scoring system, and no one really was there to take my hand and say like, all right, this is how we're gonna do it, this is our standard. And so I kind of was like, I don't really know what you expect of me. You know, sometimes you just have to say like, I don't know what I'm doing. And the response can be overwhelmingly positive. You know, so in that room I had the founder of the company say like, all right, this is a great opportunity. Let's like stop for a minute and talk about the way we cup, what we look for. You know, we have a whole set of guidelines that are similar to the SCAA and SCAE, but slightly different. You know, just like raising your hand and taking the opportunity of saying like, I don't really know what's going on, or I only know a bit, you know, because there's no bad experience. The more experience you get is the better, and you just kind of have to like go with it. Don't try and pretend like, yeah, I know what I'm doing, because then you'll get yourself into a weird position. But just like learning from other people has been the most awesome thing in my coffee career, and I think it's always going on. You know, I think like now that I work at a green coffee company, people think I must know everything about coffee, but the truth is I don't, and I won't, you know, for the rest of my career, because there's just so much out there.
I've got a question for you, Charlotte.
Sure.
I was approached the other day by someone who hasn't ever worked in coffee before, and she said to me that she wanted to get into green coffee, into buying. And I suppose me 3 years ago, maybe even as much as a year ago, would have maybe, God forbid, maybe would have sort of had a little chuckle. Oh, like, you want to get into green, but you've never been in coffee before. But then, knowing a little bit more about the education out there now, I thought actually there's enough education and information and people willing to talk to people, other people, new people, about green coffee, about getting into something new. It's almost come full circle. Now, is it an advantage perhaps not being in coffee and getting into green, because it's not only so different, but also there's a world out there of things to learn and to innovate and to contribute. What would you say to someone looking to get into green without having any experience before?
I would say yeah, it doesn't really matter if you've had experience before or not. To get to the point where you are an active green buyer, you just have to be willing to put in the time to learn, because there is a lot of learning. There's a lot of cupping, also a lot of travel. You do have to be willing, I think, to cup coffee all day long, every day. Like, people who buy green coffee, they'll, in an average day, cup, 12 tables of 50 coffees or something. Crazy amounts of coffee. So, you just have to be willing to, put in the time to learn. It doesn't really matter if you know something about coffee or not before you get in, because once you're in, you're not gonna really do a good job unless you work hard and commit yourself and, take every opportunity you can to learn from other people.
That said, I've never met anyone who works in green coffee who didn't have a background in.
Yeah.
I don't know, the green buyers at our company, I guess they all have had some experience with coffee beforehand. But I think, I don't think that there's a green coffee company out there that would hire you if you don't know anything about coffee. So you might have to do a bit of like the prerequisites, so to speak. Maybe doesn't necessarily have to be working in a coffee shop, maybe it's working in a roastery, maybe it's doing some kind of coffee diploma program. But you can't just show up one day and say like, I'm a green buyer now, but maybe you could make it a 2-year plan or a 5-year plan. And there's a lot you gotta do on the way.
Would you look at someone's CV that had perhaps intermediate or professional green SCA, SCA, and realistically look at them as a potential employee?
The truth is, I have nothing to do with green buying in my company, so I would not be in the position to even get close to making that call or looking at that CV. But yeah, I think, of course, if you have some green knowledge on your resume, you would definitely be considered.
Well, it's super interesting to think that right now, as opposed to 10 years ago, there is all this education available. There are camps happening. There are, like, Cafe Imports, for example, has extensive information. Like most importers do at this point, they have to be a wealth of information for people, where you didn't used to. You used to sort of just fall into a coffee job, like getting a barista job when you're in school and need a little extra beer money. But now, it's a career path that people are choosing. Are you guys feeling like there are any questions where, you're here and you really want to get here and you don't know how you might make that leap, or it seems a little mysterious still?
So I'm a barista trainer.
Okay. We're recording this, so it's easier if everyone gets the mic so that the questions get on the recording as well.
Hi, so I'm a barista trainer and I find my job really rewarding. I love doing it. But at the same time, it's probably not one that I want to do forever. But right now, I can't really imagine a job that I would feel more rewarded by. So does anybody have anything to speak to that? Like, how do you move from one job to another, risking maybe feeling more rewarded for more responsibility or things like that? I think everyone wants to feel rewarded in the job that they do. I think that's quite a risky thing to try.
Matt, could you maybe speak to that because you're teaching it?
So all of the people I know that are barista trainers or were barista trainers who have moved positions in an upward level have done one of two things. They've moved to a bigger company that had more need, where they had a bigger staff to train or more opportunity for educational resources, or they, in the process of being a trainer, got picked up by their company or another company to do another job because they were suited for it and they were known by the people who were looking for that job. In a few cases, it's people who go out and look specifically for another type of coffee job, but most of the time I find it just happens naturally, that either there's another company that makes sense to work for, or a related company, or another position that you're suited for. The other thing with being a trainer is that as more and more SCA campuses open up and SCAE opportunities happen. There's a lot of opportunity for other outside training outside of your company, like become an instructor at things like this. And for me, that was really rewarding. I gave up the training in my store to a full-time trainer, and just so there was something off my plate, but I found that I kind of missed that. So when I started teaching for SCA events, that kind of gave me some of that in my life without having to do that every day. So when I'm home, I can still focus on running my shop. So looking for those other opportunities where it might be something similar, or taking a younger trainer at another shop under your wing and being a mentor. That's a really kind of fun thing to do. I highly encourage mentors. We were talking about this earlier. Find mentors in the things you want to learn, or find people to mentee that need help.
I will add a little bit to this question. I see that it doesn't matter if you are working for a big company or for a small company, but the main thing is to work not for a salary, but work what you love, for what you do, and not work for 100%. For example, if you are working for 100%, you will stay in the same line all the time. Work a little bit more, work for 101%, and if you will do it every day, then definitely in that company or in another company, someone will notice that, and definitely you will be promoted, or you will find a more advanced, or how to say, a different job and with the higher qualities.
What skills do you look for? I mean, you own your company. What skills do you look for in your employees if you want to promote someone?
Yeah, it's a good question all the time, which is what is the more important, and I think that the most important part is to be a human being, and as we heard already today that coffee it's not just a drink, it's emotional thing, and if coffee is not so good, but this hospitality and the service in the highest level, then these people will return, and that means you need the colleagues and people who are working with that kind of passion. Yeah. This is the main thing.
Sam, could you speak to that too? Because I just think it's interesting. You're creating opportunities for yourself, taking leadership positions within the BGE. And that can also be really helpful in terms of making connections for the next job that you might get down the line.
So yeah, I think the hardest thing for me, once that light went on and I said, this is what I want to do, I don't just want to work in a cafe, I want coffee to be my thing, like my career. Or like once I realized that it could be a viable career, I think the hardest thing for me then was, how do I progress then? I was working in a place that didn't really care about coffee. We ordered our coffee from the same place we ordered all of our consumables, our cheese, like everything came from one like wholesale supplier. And so I kind of then was like, what do I do? I knew there was more to it. So I think I just started looking for new jobs that were going to push me more on like the coffee side of things. But I kind of realized that the best way to do it was just to try and meet people. So I'm really lucky to live in London. So I just started going to cafes, spend loads of time in lots of other cafes, drink lots of coffee, meet heaps of people. The London scene is pretty cool. Everyone seems to know a lot of people. You go to other cafes, they like recognize you and stuff. But then camp was like that, but magnified. So you come, it's like super hard work, but you have a really good time. You meet more people in a week than you would ever meet just normally, or like maybe come across in your day-to-day. So I think, and it's like a good way to prove that you're, I don't know, like for me, it's like a way to say like, this is how serious I am. I'm willing to like give up a week and come and work super hard for like, for free. But still have a really good time. So yeah, I think it's good.
Cool. Why don't you wait for the microphone?
Hi guys. I just, from what everyone's saying, it all seems that everyone kind of took a bold decision and seized an opportunity. I just wondered if you had any kind of tips on spotting opportunities and any tips on nuances between being maybe too bold and kind of annoying people, or working with people. And I guess it comes down to like empathy, what I was saying before. But any kind of tangible tips you guys have would be awesome.
I kind of feel like mine was probably the least bold because it didn't cost. All it cost me was a flight to Greece and a few days of my time, which is a lot, I suppose, but still. Actually, weirdly, the reason that I volunteered at the first camp was because I wasn't really sure if I could afford to do one of the courses, and I wasn't sure if it was right for me at that particular time. So I thought it was like a safe way to find out what the courses were like, how the camp was, what kind of environment it was. So yeah, for me, I think it was an easy decision. It was just like getting the time off of work. And obviously being accepted as a volunteer, like afterwards.
But I also think so much of it is putting the word out into your network that, I'm hungry for, something else that might be out there. And we're so lucky in coffee to have this international community of people. That it's awesome that we can come together in person at camp, but you guys can all stay connected online. And so, like Charlotte says, I've always wanted to be a roaster, and I'm looking for some place to apprentice, and she just puts the word out there, and people will keep that in their minds because we are a pretty empathetic community of people, and we want to see the right people in the right jobs. So, community.
All right, I think that's a great point, and I would also add, this is a perfect opportunity to mix with a bunch of people who have a bunch of different jobs in a bunch of different places, and just ask them what their day is like, because yeah, we all have the idea of what it might be like to be a roaster or to be a barista or to be a cafe manager. Sometimes the reality can be really different, and taking this opportunity to look someone in the face and just say, like, what do you actually do all day? Like, yeah, your title is roaster, but what do you do? And I think we all know, those of us who've been baristas, you might be a barista, but you also stamp the cups and mop the floor and take the trash out and help customers and do the till at the end of the night. And there's a whole lot of stuff that makes up the things that we do, and so it's important to find out about that stuff too, and find out, like, is that stuff that I think I might like or I might be good at. I think the other thing kind of about, identifying the moment to take that leap is maybe, I don't think you'll know if it's the right leap until you take it, but I think kind of counting the cards you have when you take that leap is a good kind of way of letting yourself know you'll be fine no matter what. So for me, going into green coffee after having been a barista, I wasn't really sure if it was the right move or not. But I knew if I didn't like it, I could always, I had worked a lot in the coffee community in Berlin and in New York, and I had plenty of skills that I knew I could, fall back on. And I think it's also okay to say, like, yeah, I tried something and it didn't work, so being okay with saying, like, yeah, I thought I wanted to be a roaster, but I actually don't like it. Now I can check that off, and now I know maybe I need to go in a different direction.
Yeah, just a quick addition. So I really encourage people to talk about your ideas. For me, I wouldn't have had my cafe without that. So my drummer and I had written a business plan for this cafe on tour. We were maybe 5 years we'll consider doing this. But when we got back from that, I had showed it. I made copies and showed it to a bunch of local business owners just to get feedback. Just be like, what can we do to improve this? Like, what do you think of it, etc. One of those people was the person who offered me my space 6 months later. So sharing your ideas can open up doors.
Yes, learn, and be brave. This is what to do actually. And for example, when King Coffee Service started with super automatic machines, and we were setting up and installing for their clients. And actually, we didn't understand nothing about coffee. We just had the training, and the guy said, "Okay, you need to push that button, and then place the machine in a cafe or a gas station." And then when we put some 100 machines, we understand that, okay, we don't understand what we are doing. Actually, we are like robots. And then it was right before crisis, and we were 34th company in Latvia. And then we sit down and start to think what to do. We want not to be 34. We want to be first, and what to do. And okay, we need to learn. And then what to do is we need to buy a manual coffee machine, because in manual coffee machine and grinder there is everything happening, but you need to understand. And then we start to train. We get one training, some 5 sheets, and okay, we need to do that. We need to do that. After 1 month, my brother, he's a Latvia barista champion. At that time, he works in a coffee business already 6 months. He came to our office and asked, "Do you clean the coffee machine?" I said, "Well, yes, of course, it's clean. Everything is shiny and good." He opened take off this portafilter. It's not really clean. It's absolutely black. Okay, we need to open it. And from this is 10 years already passed, and of course we know a lot of what to do and how to do, but that's why actually we are here to learn. And all the time there's a new things happening in the coffee scene, and all the time I think it's like a never-ending story in information about coffee, and that's cool. That's really awesome.
That just sort of reminds me, I've heard from a lot of people, baristas primarily, over the years who say, I've always wanted to try roasting, so I asked the roaster who supplies our cafe if I can shadow him for a day. Or, I want to go see what it's like to spend a day at an importing company, or, there are so many ways to explore those without making. Yes, it is super important to be brave and make bold moves, but you can do investigation into different jobs pretty easily.
I'll add to that, guest shifting at other bars,
Yep.
you can pull that off, or if you're traveling somewhere and you're going to be there, you have relationships with other baristas at other shops. Seeing how your skills stand up in a different environment can teach you a lot.
I can introduce you to new people.
And you get to meet people.
I think unfortunately we're going to have to wrap it up. We'll do that one last question.
That is a very good question. If you would be a god for 1 minute, what would you change in the coffee world forever?
Answer in one sentence each.
You're holding the mic.
I would convince every coffee professional out there that we actually sell positive emotions and not coffee, and to get over themselves when it comes to coffee.
You stole mine. Actually, no, I don't know.
Good question.
That's a great question. What would you change? Nothing? All right.
What would you like to see change about like green coffee specifically, or buying practices?
I think actually what I would like to see change within the specialty world, it's slightly different from yours, I promise, but it is a shift in perspective, which is, I see this a lot with green specialty coffee, and I kind of envision it as like an iceberg, where specialty coffee is the little tiny bit that's poking out of the top of the water, and the rest of the coffee industry is what's floating underneath. So all these commercial coffees that we, kind of poo-poo in the specialty world, the reason we're able to have that specialty coffee is because this whole industry exists, this whole infrastructure exists, which allows coffee to come from Brazil or India or Ethiopia to, Estonia. And there's a lot of hands that go into that work to make these amazing coffees come onto the table, but there are also a lot of hands that go into the work to make the not so amazing coffees come into the table. And we gotta appreciate those too and understand that we're in a very lucky position to kind of get the top tier. And there's nothing wrong with the middle tiers, because without the middle tiers, we wouldn't have the top tiers,
Okay, so I suppose I would probably say something similar, like a change in perception, but I think it would probably come more from outside the industry than inside. And it's that thing of like, a lot of baristas always say, I don't want to be in the bar forever. And I think for me, part of that is because it doesn't feel sustainable to me. And I think I would like to see that change. And I think that things like this and the education program is working towards that, making it like a more viable profession. I think I would stay on the bar long term if I felt like it was a sustainable thing. Like, I live in London and it's pretty expensive. I'm getting older now, I'm married, I want to plan for the future, and I feel like as a barista, on the wages that you get and the future that you maybe have, and the physicality of it, it's not something that I really see myself doing in the long term. But it's something that I really enjoy, and I think that's why I'm struggling now to see where to go next, because it's not necessarily something I want to leave, but it's not something that I can see as being a sustainable option for me in the long term. So I'd like to see that change.
Good question. Smile. All baristas are smiling, and there is no arrogant, super hipstery baristas. Yeah. And the stable water, of course, and the stable because we are changing all the time, and the stable water is good water. Yeah. So
Always good mediator.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you guys.